do is have a moment of silence for the passing of Al's father.
Which one? That one? I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
The next thing I'd like to announce is that beginning January 8th, the school board meetings will be starting at 5 p.m. Any public input? Hearing none, I think there's a presentation by the senior class advisors and students.
Yes, thank you. Can you introduce yourselves?
So I'm Allie.
I'm Jillian.
So this is our itinerary.
So we want to go to Canada for our senior class trip, and this is our itinerary for it. And there's 41 of us who plan on going, and it's $520 a person.
41 out of how many?
49?
Yeah, pretty good average.
Yeah.
And what's the cost of the trip?
$520 a person, but we can only have them pay $250, and we'll fundraise the other half.
Okay.
Are they gonna have to get their own passport cards and everything beforehand?
If you're under 18, you only need two
One's away.
identification, yeah. When you're traveling with the school.
Right.
So do the other 8 students not want to go?
Yeah, I think so.
They didn't want to go.
Yeah.
Three have definitely said they do not want to go.
Okay.
The other 5 never responded to the survey. So, but it won't be an issue to ask them specifically. We have some time to.
You will ask them?
Oh, yes,
You said yeah.
absolutely.
Right. The first part was really quick. You said it cost 520
Yeah, a person.
a person,
Right. We can only ask $250 from each family,
but, okay,
so we have to fundraise the other half.
okay.
And this is like the same trip that the class of 2015 did, their senior year.
There we go, okay.
What kind of fundraising are you gonna do?
We did like Yankee Candle already, so probably a lot of bake sales and stuff until then, and super fun.
Come on, I just Shaw's, have to go around.
Saturday, the 23rd, Shaw's and Walmart.
Okay, you can do both at the same time.
And we're actually sharing with the
9 to
freshman
1.
class, which is kind of interesting because I don't know that it's ever happened that way before, but due to whatever happened,
Yeah.
we ended up being together for a fundraiser, a bake sale at Walmart for Thanksgiving with the freshman class, and it was, I thought, one of the best experiences being together and sharing, like, and people were talking to the kids and asking them why they were here, and it was, I thought it was great camaraderie that was going on, and it was really interesting. So we said, oh, would you like to split it with us if we have both places? And they said they would, so.
Perfect.
Yeah, and the advisor called me tonight and asked, like, oh, how do you put the cookies together and all that? What's it gonna look like so we're all together? So, I think it's kind of interesting to do it that way.
That's good.
And Darcy just came at, I think Susan's on her way, but the
Yeah, I got it.
roads are really bad. We just got a text that she's having a hard time getting here.
I know, I'm probably missing it. How many, oh, there we go, right there. Got you. I went. I did, so long ago.
Any more questions for the advisors of the classes?
I'm good, no, it looks great.
Looks great.
Excellent.
Hear a motion from the board to accept their class trip.
Make a motion that we accept the proposal from the senior class for their class trip to Montreal and Quebec City on May 17th through 19th, 2018.
Do we hear a second?
Yep.
Any further questions?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Have fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not too much.
Reasonable amount.
Thank you, good luck.
Thank
Good luck
you.
with fundraising.
Have a nice night.
Thanks, bye-bye. Thanks for coming.
didn't even know.
Such a gentleman.
When I turn.
Next thing on the agenda is board minutes of December 4th. Do you hear a motion?
So moved.
Do you hear a second?
Second.
Any corrections or omissions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. The manifest up between Kim and Greg and Millie. Treasurer's report,
Well, you have it in front of you, everything balances out perfect. So, yeah, we're in good shape from what I can see.
okay.
I also went through the manifest today. And had a couple of questions, but we'll straighten them out.
Any further questions about the treasurer's report?
The month and the year-to-date numbers are on the drive. I have a request for some budget reallocation. The page that's on your drive is basically a worksheet, just so I can kind of gather my thoughts when I'm doing this type of thing. The current budget balance is what's showing in the books right now. Then I'm looking to make, in addition to special ed tuition, $50,000, which will bring that to a $200 balance. If you approve the items for the architect, what's the name?
Orange
Street. Okay, that'll drive that account negative to $7,700. So I'm asking to move $10,000 into that account, which will give us a little breathing room. Continuing down, you can see that the regular ed salaries at the elementary school is about $100,000 under budget because of all the changes that happened with retirements and people coming in at different rates. All those items happened after the budget was prepared, so we knew there'd be some variance. And there's also some health insurance money left at the high school for similar reasons. So that's, I'm using that as the source. So I'm basically asking to move $60,000 from regular ed to cover the special ed and contracted services.
Do you hear a motion?
Make a motion that we accept business manager's proposal to reallocate funds as needed for special ed and also for the contracted services.
Do you hear a second?
Second?
Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Well, not in time for your drive, we do have a sheet which shows this year's November versus last year's November. Start to get back into some of the monthly reporting again. The only significant item on there that I'd point out is food service is not fully encumbered at this point. So half the variance basically is showing on the food service, and we know that that's not where we're going to end up. Other than that, everything on a year-to-year basis looks to be pretty much in line with expectations. If there are questions going forward, feel free to drop me a line or give me a call, and we'll handle them. I also received information from the IRS that the standard mileage rate that you use for reimbursing employee travel moves to 54.5 cents per mile effective January 1, which is up a penny from this year. And your travel policy typically says that we use the maximum IRS rate. And I think that's all I have.
Okay. I see nothing under unfinished business or new business, so I think we're going to start with Kelly with her report.
Okay, for special enrollment, there was a decrease of 5 students. 3 of those students moved out of district. And then two are no longer eligible, but we still have several new referrals in process, so that number next month could go back up to 150. Right now, all of our positions are filled. On Tuesday, I think the high school and the academy, Dave Bronson, are starting to do some of the Alice emergency response trainings during task time. So at the academy, they've been talking about what that will look like, and we're starting with barricading, right? So if there's an emergency, what you would do to kind of barricade in your classroom and stuff. So, and then I was contacted by the Department of Ed to serve on the Nessus stakeholder group to represent the North Country, and so that will meet 5 times a year. That's our state IEP reporting system, and Littleton was actually one of the first districts 11 years ago when it started to kind of jump on that bandwagon. So there's been a lot of changes, but that's the system that pulls down all of our data for our compliance and stuff, so it's kind of nice to be part of that group and talk about what could work better and what's working efficiently. So we'll meet 5 times a year for that.
Great. So perhaps you'll keep us updated on new and promising things.
I will.
Let's see, Jennifer.
All right. No. Oh, it's good, I was looking for everybody. So, our report seems very long. I think it's the English teacher me, but 4 of them are letters that we've received. We've got our enrollment numbers, 350 right now, with some notes. I tried to break my report up into the 5 NEASC standards as we go into the NEASC self-reflection time period. So under 1, learning cultures, I've included our vision. I always start my staff meetings with the vision. We had our November 20th end of quarter Crusader celebration, where we recognized a lot of the talents of our students, not just academic, but across all areas of our school. We met with the NEASC director the 6th of December to kind of review the 2020 standards in the process. It's a little different this year as we look at the new standards in the process. It starts with a self-reflection. So I'll be sending letters home tomorrow to families, inviting them to review the student surveys that we'll be giving right after the Christmas break. Staff will also get the survey along with parents. I've included links in my report to more information about the 2020 standards. Winter wellness, after spending some time with the teachers, trying to figure out how to make it work in a system where it's middle and high school blended, we're going to change our approach to helping support students in their wellness by shifting to a more of an outing club beyond the school day hours, as opposed to embedding it in the school day, as many of our teachers are teaching high school classes during the time when we've done winter wellness in the past. We're hoping to be able to draw the students into other activities rather than sticking with one for 6 weeks, like bowling or swimming, allowing them to pick and choose the ones that they attend beyond the school day. I've reached out to Mount Eustis. They've reached out to me as well, so we've been communicating back and forth a little bit about how we can still provide those opportunities at a reasonable cost using our local mountain with some reasonable prices for rentals. So we're trying to continue that. I sent that announcement to families just over a week ago now, and I've communicated with 2 or 3, I think it's 3 families right now, talking through the whys and the reasons that I think it might be better, allowing them to have, kind of winter wellness activities in times where they have downtime. A lot of the students don't do the activities, so it'll get them engaged in another opportunity. So October, we received a letter from Congress member Ann Custer recognizing the efforts of our students and Mrs. Wood collecting socks. We did collect 760 pairs of socks and sent them off to Tyler Blaine House, Bancroft House, and Birch House. Like Kelly had said, our Alice training will begin tomorrow. Tomorrow we've got some scenarios. They'll go through the activities and kind of just talk through how they might approach different emergencies. I included some of the co-curricular numbers, so there's about 122 kids involved in Student Council, National Honor Society, drama, youth leadership this year. I've got our fall numbers I've had before with 90 girls and 67 boys participating in our athletic programs. In this winter, we've got 73 girls and 53 boys participating in a variety of winter activities. I've kind of broken it out. It's nice to see we've got wrestling, boy wrestling, so Wednesday night, White Mountain Regional, we'll go check that out. And some boys on the spirit team in both middle school and high school. Standard 2 for NEASC is student learning. Our PSAT results have been received. We've met our benchmark growth, and we've met with our juniors and reviewed their scores with them and set them up on learning paths on Khan Academy, and they'll begin some of those SAT prep workshops once a week after Christmas break. They'll be assigned and working on some of those learning paths. We have 9 students participating in community college courses, 10 different courses. Our running start totals are up from last year at this time. 22 students were taking running start courses last year, and this year at this time was 36. That may have something to do with the schedule a little bit, but numbers are up. We've got 5 teachers teaching running start courses in our schools. Mrs. Noyes, the band, we had our winter concert on December 5th, and this is just, I keep thinking about how much they've performed since the start of the year, from homecoming to Veterans Day to the Christmas parade, and it's continual performance for these students, and they're doing a great job. There's about 116 students involved in that program. We just received an award, a monetary award of $2,000 from the Grammy Museum and Hot Topics Foundation. It's being awarded to our music program as a community award, so I'd like us to accept that money for our music program. I know we want to do that now or later.
We'll do that right after you read.
Okay.
Jen, excuse me, I
Yes.
usually get questions about why the kids don't wear uniforms. I get it every year. Can you help me answer that? Or do we have uniforms?
The uniforms that we have are probably 20 or 30 years old. I don't know how old. They're rarely old. I haven't had any conversations with Mrs. Noyes about uniforms. That's something we can certainly.
Well, that's what I hear. Well, they have uniforms, why don't they wear them? So I don't even know.
You mean
I know they had them.
the marching band?
Yeah, the marching band. Yeah. So.
We haven't replaced them, so I don't know whether there's just so many kids in the program, but I'll talk to Mrs. Noyes about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think
We
there
did
are
look-
some, but I don't know how.
They're really old.
They were fairly new when they stopped wearing them though.
Were they?
They just stopped wearing them.
They're wool. I know that the Memorial Day is hot. When they march in that parade, it's very, very warm. So
Somebody
they
got
need to
them.
be But the, yeah,
That's the-
so that's something, I
Yeah,
can certainly, if
follow.
that's something we want to look at investing in, we can talk, I saw something really old on Facebook, capes. They had capes as opposed
No, I don't think
to
they're that.
whole uniforms. It was neat, that and hats. The standard 3's professional practice, Melanie Harkless continues to work with our teachers. She's been meeting with the consultant, working on competency development and sequencing across the grades. Our leadership team's begun review of our current schedule to improve it for next year. We're not talking big overhaul, we're talking about course alignments to make sure we're attending to some conflicts. And hoping to embed more AP and Running Start options. Our learning support, our students, Greg and I, Kelly, Al, Many other counselors in the school have been working on these, our student support team, and in formalizing plans. In the past, sometimes we've gotten into the reaction, but we're really looking at those tier 2 interventions and streamlining them so that we're not reacting each time we have a student come forward. So that is moving forward very well. Greg and I met with Rochelle Cox, the director of Eagle Academy, about their alternative ed program in Conway to gain insight on how we can improve our Learn program. And I know we'll be planning additional meetings to kind of visit and have her come again and just talk about ways to make that alternative approach a stronger program. We, at the end of the Q1, did do a self-reflection on the task opportunities, surveyed our students, and talked to our staff about ways to improve it. I've got some results. 45% of our students wanted more enrichment opportunities, and they gave us kind of feedback on where. Many of them are looking more at independent work time, quiet time so that they can do their studies. Physical activities, 35% of our students are interested in more of that. 30 in artistic and creative opportunities. In the social gaming, 22%. So we're still looking at ways to improve the opportunities for our kids there. The final standard of NEASC is learning resources. I've been attending the principals meeting, and North Country schools are offering, Monroe, Profile, Gorham are offering different international travel opportunities through EF educational tours. So I've shared that with our community. People can choose to go to the other school programs and travel. It's a challenge for North Country schools to get enough people to go on trips so that the people who wish to benefit from international travel can. So I'll be working with them through the year to see if it's something that Littleton might be interested in exploring. Crusader Pride meets this Wednesday. David Newfer and I have been participating in those meetings. Steve's come some, and we continue improving opportunities there. Our next community collaborative is going to be this Thursday, 6:30 to 7:30. We're going to talk about the ALICE training so that families have a better understanding of that, and the NEASC survey so that they have the availability of that. And we've got other opportunity, other focus areas as well. We'll see what the group of parents wish to focus on. That's it.
Thank you. Al, I think you're next.
Next. So enrollment really doesn't change that much, so basically stays the same. Our industry and post-secondary connections, we continue to work with White Mountain Community College and NCIC, together that large grant that NCIC received a couple of years ago that purchased our milling machines. There's still a little money left, so what we have focused on is purchase of some tooling for those machines and a Roland milling machine. We have an advisory committee like all other programs, and it was suggested that there's too much of a gap. Needed more hands-on kind of opportunity before students jumped into those larger CNC machines. So that's what we're going to purchase. Also, do some grant monies, same area. White Mountains Community College hired someone to, I guess, promote manufacturing both at the adult level and at the high school level. So that person was hired a month or so ago, has been working pretty hard to develop an advanced manufacturing class. Interesting how the college system works, because the Lakes region has a full curriculum, and you would think they're under the same umbrella of the community college system. They would just be able to forward that curriculum to White Mountains. Well, not so easy, so they've been working on that, but we still want to offer an advanced manufacturing class, an evening class starting in January. So hopefully that will come we'll have enough enrollment to have that run. Broadcast, you know, just across the river and at Linden State, there's a fantastic broadcast news studio and program. Our students were able to visit one evening. We went after school so that they could observe the broadcast, which is typically at 5 o'clock. We don't get it here, but they cover a variety of towns. You must get it, Channel 7, maybe you don't have cable.
Satellite around.
But it covers all the area in the North Country of Vermont, so they're able to watch that show live. So it's quite exciting for them. And actually, the two professors the next week travel over here on their own time and spend time with our instructor, Mr. Reed, and the students first watch their broadcast. And provided us with some great feedback on where we should be heading, what should we be purchasing, and just some minor things like having, because right now our chairs and everything are on the floor, just have those up on risers a little bit, so it's more of a face-to-face viewing instead of maybe the top of someone's head. Keep that in mind, Dale. Program improvement and professional development. We are planning, I'm going to go and Mr. Reed's going to go to Project Lead the Way training. I did have a conversation with Crystal, and hopefully a couple of teachers from Lakeway can go. It's in January 11th. It's in Concord, and it's free, and some great workshops around Project Lead the Way. Just so you know, of course, Region 3 Advisory meets on a regular basis. We have to meet 4 times a year in our agreement, so we had a meeting in the fall. We just had a meeting last week, and that meeting was up at the Regional, Arthur Paradise Center. And just so you know, they're starting their renovation project again. They went through it a couple times and were not fortunate for it to pass, but they're still in line for 75% reimbursement for facility improvements, as we were. So they're going to start their committee work, and I'm going to serve on that committee as well up there. So they're just getting started again, hopefully third time's a charm. Program updates. We had our little Leopards holiday family night. Was well attended, of course, as it would be. All the little preschoolers. I want to thank special guests, Mr. and Mrs. Claus, as they made the trip down for that event. Did you get to meet them?
Oh, I did, I've got a picture with me.
In the auto programs around the state, the New Hampshire Automobile Dealer Association is very active. They have some great funding to back them, and they hire somebody to represent them. And there's a new person on board, Jessie Dade. She came down and met with students and talked about their many opportunities post high school they can be involved in. Also, they support competitions that automotive students are involved in. Second year students, first you have to get through a written exam, so she was able to have that exam and have our second year students participate in that exam. If they're successful, as we did a couple of years ago, they have an opportunity to travel to New York City and compete with vehicles at that stage. I want to thank certainly Barry Transportation, because they transport our students down to Lakeway, and Lakeway teachers for hosting our students, our first year teacher education students. Spent probably 4 weeks observing classrooms, so students who think they want to become teachers, not sure what level they want to be involved in, they had an opportunity to observe a variety of levels at Lakeway, so I want to thank teachers for hosting them. Building construction, they completed their mock design of the tiny house, which they built the tiny house quickly, so to speak, not the code, just to get the layout of the different rooms. What was nice about that is students from 7th grade up participated in that. Seventh graders were able to design a bathroom, for example, and using styrofoam. And the owner was walked through the design, was very pleased, and liked the design, so then it was torn down, and now we're building it for real. So it was nice to involve students at a variety of different levels. FBLA is getting ready for the competition this spring. We got 7 students competing, and 29 students this year are planning to begin their LNA clinicals. They're going to start in January, and that includes, we've increased the hours 90 to about 100 hours in between. That allows them to carry their license in a variety of states. So interesting now, just some quick feedback, talking to students who have gone off to college in a number of states, and many of them are still working in the medical field as an LNA while they're going to school. So that's exciting that they're able to continue to do that.
Yeah.
And last but not least, it's not on here, and maybe tonight isn't the time you want to respond, but I do have a proposal to spend some capital reserve monies, and what I want to do is improve aesthetics, if you will, plus the technology around our graphics engineering room, which is also used for photography, robotics. Just to give you a little background, that room was built, as we know, in 2004 it opened, and many of the furnishings were brought in from the old tech ed room, which is where the music room is now, if you remember where that tech ed room space was, the parking lot. The benches were brought in. In the engineering room, the furnishings and the computers were from the business department. So we borrowed those from the business department. What we're hoping to do is just enhance that environment. So presently, in those spaces, like I mentioned before, we want to improve and increase our engineering students. That's why I think we're really focused on Project Lead the Way as a K-12 initiative to try and generate interest K-12. And that includes robotics and those larger manufacturing machines. But also graphics. Graphics has really taken off. We have some great enrollment in graphics. As well as we use that space for TV production as well as the studio. It was recommended by our monitor that we have a classroom, so we're using both. So they're trying to find another classroom space, very flexible, moving down the hall. And again, photography is used that space. So I do want to purchase, and working with a local vendor, purchase some furniture. And I think you may have seen a website that the superintendent sent out maybe a couple of weeks ago about furniture and how it's designed, how students learn differently today, and how it's designed for cooperative learning. So that's the whole premise behind that. And then, so that's about half of the cost. The other half is to beef up, again, the computers, working with Dale, of course, finding laptop solutions that would meet our needs in terms of software, a lot of design software that we use. And then we're looking at different options in terms of a smart board, maybe a printing board. We're also looking at just TV monitors, just creating a real inviting space for our students. So I don't know, that's the space that I'm thinking of. So I don't know if you need more time or you have more questions, and you can certainly, this money I'm asking to come out of the capital reserve fund, which is in excess of $300,000. And again, this space was not part of the 2011 renovation.
On purpose. Remember, we talked about that.
Right, well, the space was already built,
Yeah.
but we didn't add furnishings, we didn't add equipment.
Right.
We kept it.
Kind of, yeah.
And what's the name of the space now currently?
It presently holds technology, graphics, and the plan is to offer Project Lead the Way programming again. Obviously, our instructor retired. The instructor that we hired didn't have that training. Very excited to get that training. That involves summer workshop, which I'm running in the Perkins grant, so he could attend a week-long program, so he could start. He's very excited to start that work. And again, working with Lakeway, kind of a K-12 approach around Project Lead the Way, STEM, if you will. I think that's where we need to be. And the space is designed to be really flexible. And I don't know if you've been in there with the cores hanging and older equipment. It's not a very appealing setting. So I want to really spruce it up. So that's what we're trying to do.
I sent you an email today, or forwarded the one that Al sent me on Friday, which I intended to send you Friday. My apologies. So Al had the information in on time. I unfortunately didn't get it to you on time. So I hope you had a chance to look at it today.
Is 36,000 the high end? I mean, do you have everything that you
Yes, we
want in there?
Yeah, we spent a lot of time working with local vendor, looking at some different options, working with the instructors working with his students, designing the space. So
Yeah.
we've had student involvement.
So,
Certainly anything that we find that we're missing, we'll focus on probably the Perkins money.
I don't know if all the board has a chance to view that email tonight, or you wanna wait and hold?
I did see it, I
meeting?
did look at it, read it.
Those tables will be awesome.
Yeah.
Adjustable tables.
The spaces are designed, again, to be flexible, and group settings, individual settings, sitting, standing, that's the whole purpose.
Yeah.
And that space may look very different in 3 years, you know, in terms of the course offerings, but I think if we took that in mind and be flexible, that'd be good.
I don't know if you saw that too. Okay.
I have no issues with it.
Okay.
It's good.
Well, if anybody doesn't have any issues with it, I will need a motion for, I think that's the amount total.
I'd like to make a motion that we appropriate a sum of $42,823.43 from the CTC, what is the name of that fund?
Capital Reserve.
Capital Reserve Fund,
Yeah.
for updates to the graphics and tech areas, furniture and computers.
Is there a second?
Yep.
Any further questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you
Yes,
very
thank
much.
All right, Dale.
All right, real quick, I updated Green Acres after the last meeting regarding the changes from 3-inch to 1-inch. Also provided them with time slots of when like the loops need to be cleared by in the afternoon for buses and so forth, very accommodating. So he has the schedule, and I think we saw pretty good service last week
Good.
during the storm. The unit that we talked about a month ago for the remote connectivity for train was ordered. It is scheduled to arrive next week, and then we would need to set up an installation time with the lady from Maine to send somebody down. We learned a few good things about it, is it allows remote access. There's an app that myself and or Alex can have on our phones. So if an alarm was to go off or something was to not heat in the middle of the night, it would alert us. We wouldn't have to be here and come in the next morning to find out that there was no heat. So there's more advantages than just them being able to log in remotely and troubleshoot our problems. In addition to that, Alex and I spent about an hour with the technician that was here 2 weeks ago. He spent some time with us on the system and how to better regulate our system. I think his exact words was, "Your controls are all over the place," and there was no balance. So we've started to work on that. It is a time-consuming process to figure out if those changes work. If they don't work, and we have to go back. But our hope is to make the system more efficient, and hopefully we'll have those completed by the end of vacation next week, so that when we come back, we can start to see whether or not it's working. The SAU received notification last week from the Department of Labor that our Department of Labor inspection that was conducted in February of 2016 has been finalized, and no follow-up visits are required. So we met all the requirements and all the changes, and I just wanted to thank the admin team, Crystal at elementary school and Jen at the high school. We had to implement some things that weren't necessarily perceived as positive right away, but once we explained that there was no alternative route, that was what we had to do, they were very supportive. The staff was very supportive, and the custodial team did a lot of put a lot of time and energy into making those corrections. So it took a while to get off that naughty list, but we made it. Everybody's sort of already talked about the ALICE training. I just wanted to let you guys know, if you didn't see it in your inbox last week, it probably went into your spam folder, but there's an ALICE training for you to click on, so you can as well do the online certifications to get a better understanding of exactly everything that we go through. And in relation to that, last week we had a gentleman, Mr. Heichlinger from the Department of Safety, Homeland Security, came up and did an evaluation of the high school, middle school CTC. He was very complimentary of our safety practices that are currently in place with cameras, with our key card system. He will have a formalized report in 3 to 4 weeks that'll come back to the superintendent as well as Jen of some recommendations. Again, those aren't mandatory. It was a free inspection, something that the Department of Safety has been doing for the last year and a half. So we took advantage of it. And depending on what we decide, it could be something that we could also do at Lakeway to get an evaluation. And speaking of Lakeway, it's not in the report, but I confirmed today with Warren Street Architect. They will be here on the 27th from 9 to 3 to do that evaluation, or start that evaluation process on the structure of Lakeway. So that's it.
Okay,
Questions?
thanks. So Eric,
Okay, enrollment, we're down 3 students this month. Curriculum and staff development, we're continuing to work on our aligning our curriculum and changes in instruction. So we've been doing that with our consultant, Ellen Hume Howard. Mel has done a lot with our instructional committee. And last week we did a lot with science and social studies. At our staff meetings, we've been having staff kind of present and kind of showing what they do in the classroom, and that's been really good to know that we're kind of having our staff teach each other. In terms of technology, Amy and Matt went to the Kristen Cove conference, and they came back with a 3D printer, which Amy is going to be doing with her 5th and 6th grade students. And then Matt came back with a programmable drone, which he's going to be doing in demonstrations. Pretty cool. We had an ESOL teacher start on Monday, and she's a great addition to Lakeway. So it's really going to help with our services there. We had our first PBIS celebration. We had a big dance party for all the students who celebrated all the students whose behaviors increased in terms of our behavior competencies. We had our first Friends of Lakeway craft fair at Littleton High School, and this was a great success. Lakeway's holiday concert was a snow delay. We did it on the 14th. The kids did a great job. It was well attended, and Mr. Stewart did a nice job leading everyone. On Friday, we had our annual holiday shop where students were able to buy gifts for their parents. With a lot of times, students are buying the stuff that their parents donated themselves.
The gift that keeps on
Exactly.
giving. Boomerang.
And then last, our winter programs start when we get back January 8th.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
And need a motion for Grammys.
Yes, the
Oh,
2,000.
yes. So we have that.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the $2,000 community award donation from the Grammy Museum and Hot Topic Foundation for the Littleton High School music program.
Okay, second?
Wait a second. Good.
Yep, second.
Good. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Next on the agenda is personnel. Any meetings?
No.
Okay. Facilities?
Nothing new,
Nothing new.
until we get our Warren Street.
That's right. Okay.
We're allowed to talk about.
Huh? And then for policies, we're still working pretty hard on all of those. So policy EFAA is the school lunch program meal charging. I don't know if you had a chance to read all through it tonight.
3 pages crossed out, I know.
Well, those first 3 pages, I think, will not be part of the,
No,
You're
it's all crossed out, I'm looking at
it's
it.
just information.
We just had to officially cross it out.
Yeah, you officially had to delete it, huh? Okay.
So that's the first read for tonight.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah.
The cross outs.
Cross-referencing the wording.
It's only a paragraph.
Professional meetings, we
Pages.
finalized
That was
that one,
really
so
good.
I think we've had a share. So if there's no questions, do I hear a motion to accept the first read?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next one is policy IHCD/LEB. This is an advanced course and advanced placement courses. Basically, the revisions in the policy is to incorporate high school and CTE students in grades 11 and 12 to participate in dual and concurrent enrollment programs. Secondly, the students may be eligible for tuition reimbursement for up to 2 courses per academic year through the governor's STEM scholarship program. Thus, the student will be able to earn high school and college credit by enrolling in a course designated by the community college system of New Hampshire. So we have had this policy before. We've added the new language in. So hopefully, if everybody's okay with it, I'd like to have a first read with an adoption tonight instead of holding it up. Because I think we might have some students that we can
You know, they'll benefit from a
get a little
revision.
benefit from this year.
Well, then we should deal with it.
Are these courses that they take here at the school, or do they go to the actual community college and take?
No,
They're here,
they're here.
yeah.
So is that, who oversees that? Is there a teacher that's,
One of our teachers is teaching it.
okay, and they receive a qualification through that program to be,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, they're gonna meet, obviously, our requirements, state of Hampshire requirements, but also the White Mountains Community College requirements.
You have to meet with a White Mountains Community College rep and go over the curriculum and.
Okay.
And some of those students might be taking it directly with White Mountain Community College as well
Okay.
this year.
Any further questions? Do I hear a motion to accept this policy and also for adoption?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next policy is, policy ILD. This policy is a non-educational survey and questionnaire. It is a priority, which means it's required by law. I think the whole policy is brand new, if I remember correctly. And had a chance to read through it. We will just accept it for our first read tonight. Do I hear a motion?
I move that we accept the first draft of ILD policy.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second?
Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next policy is JLCD. It's administering medications to students. We already have this policy in our system, but there is, the last paragraph is one that was required to be added, and it's a priority.
Is that the actual required language?
Yep. Yep.
And
So
we
the
just,
the
is
school,
it on there?
it's on the very last page.
Yeah, I got it.
The school nurse or other designated personnel may administer other medications to students in emergency situations, provided such personnel have had training as is required by law,
All training.
okay? Such medication may also be administered in emergency situations if a student's medical action plan has been filed and updated with the school district to the extent required by law. And the district will maintain all necessary records relative to the emergency administration of medication and will file all such reports as may be required. That's the language.
Okay.
And if everybody is okay with that, I'd like a motion for the first read with adoption tonight, if you so desire.
I just have some questions, and they're not even dealing with that last paragraph. They're just questions I have in general with regards to this policy, and I think I may have brought them up the last time we reviewed this. But what's in place for them to confirm it in the first paragraph on the first page, the first paragraph after the number 2? It talks about how all the medication has to be delivered basically in its original pharmacy container.
Mm-hmm.
What do they have in place to confirm that what's in the bottle is what the outside label says it is?
Because the parents have to bring it in, so it's the doctor's prescription is on that bottle.
Right.
And then it's in the student's health plan that they are required to have this, whatever medication it
Right,
is.
and my question is, how do we know what's in the bottle is what is said on the outside of the bottle? I'm just saying if somebody were to ever switch out and put something that's not supposed to be in that, and we give that child or that student a medication, and there's a reaction, what's the liability for us
Well, I guess what I'm saying is the parent has to bring in the bottle of medication to the nurse themselves.
Okay.
And when that medication runs out, for example, then the nurse has to call the parent and say, we're low on Johnny's medication.
So we're not liable for what's in the container, provided it comes in with a label from a pharmacy?
Yeah.
Okay. The other question in the last paragraph on the first page, it talks about self-administration of like an epinephrine auto-injector. And it states if a student finds it necessary to use his or her auto-injector, they'll immediately report to the nearest supervising adult. What's the policy after that if they're using an EpiPen? Because does that need to be written in here, or is there a policy that states if they use an EpiPen? Because traditionally, if they use an EpiPen, they're supposed to go to the emergency room. Because there's cardiac-related issues with epinephrine, there's all kinds of things that can be.
Well,
I don't know if that needs to be in here, I'm just questioning whether or not there are things in place
my understanding is
that.
that if Johnny has certain medications that's required, he has to carry an EpiPen, that has to be in there, and it has to be verified by the physician to the nurse.
Yeah.
That's in the school system and
Okay.
how they handle it.
So that, my question was basically, if that does happen,
Yeah,
what's the nurse's next step? I assume the kid doesn't go back to their classroom, they would then
yeah,
go to the emergency room by a parent or whatever they would,
yeah.
okay. And then I know I've asked this question in the past, how are the medications stored?
They're stored in a, I can only say by
In a
my
locked
way, because I've
cabinet?
been down there, but they're in a medication
Okay,
cabinet.
and the cabinet's locked all day long except when they come in and out of it? And the only person that has the key is nurse or administrator?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, we tried to clean that up before, because that was an issue.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I have questions.
Good question.
Okay. Do we get a motion yet? Or we still discussing?
Motion to accept policy JLCD for first reading adoption.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Superintendent's report.
Okay.
Excuse me, we do have another meeting the end of January 24th, I think it is, at 9 o'clock, because Mr. Fillion requested to come with some
Yes.
students, I believe. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, just a number of items here I'll go through fairly quickly. Part of, in the board documents, you got information on cost per pupil information. And by school, you'll see at the high school dropped 5 places. So as I've contended before, oftentimes it's pointed out the high school, the cost per pupil, how high it is, and it is high, but it doesn't factor in the fact that this high school also generates $500,000 or so in revenue. So I know I made that point before, I'll continue to make that point, that cost per pupil is a bit skewed in terms of the high school cost. Having said that, it has dropped. I suspect, and this data is for 16-17 year, I would suspect when 17-18 data comes out a year from now, we'll see a further reduction in our cost per pupil because of the effects of the dropping of the budget. And the fact that we have a lower budget and more students than we did a year ago. So those numbers are going to continue to change just a little bit. Driver's education, 3 cohorts finished or nearing completion. My thanks to Mr. Shea and Jennifer. I've sat in on some of those meetings when they're scheduling and working with Mr. Doucette and trying to make sure that we maintain the balance with our kids in terms of their academics and their desire and their family's desire to get their education or their driver's education completed. And that's a challenging balance at times, but my thanks to them for taking care of that and making it work. That program's running at a surplus of about $1,600 through the 3rd cohort, so it's paying for itself. I might note that it wouldn't be paying for itself, but for the generosity of Littleton Chevrolet who provides the vehicle. So that's obviously a huge benefit to us and helps a lot in terms of keeping the cost in. We spoke a little bit already about Warren Street coming in late this month. Dale will be with Kyle Barker. Kyle Barker is the architect that has been assigned to this project. Warren Street has also done some subcontracting with a few local architects as well as providers as part of this study when they start looking at the ventilation systems, heating, and so on. But that study will be moving forward, and we will have some information back by the January 9th budget hearing. I wish we don't have quite that much time. Alternative certifications, and just wanted to comment briefly on this. We have a number of teachers who are on alternative certifications this year. Across the state last year there was over 200 teachers taking some type of alternative certification classes and working on becoming fully certified in additional areas or new areas. So we're not alone. It's part of the landscape for the last 15-20 years in many schools across the United States, but I'm happy to report that we're watching that very carefully. We've had several teachers who made progress to the point of completing some of the work that they need to do, and we continue to work with the consultant that works with our CTE teachers as well as some of our other teachers to make sure that everything is on track there. Region 3 meeting, last week Al and Jennifer and I went over to the regional, and they hosted the meeting then, and it was again, it was good to see, I think, really well attended by administrators, teachers. We thank the culinary arts class for fine breakfast, as is always the case when we get a chance to go over there.
Doesn't hurt.
Doesn't hurt, no, but my hat's off to the regional and their culinary arts program, and we certainly enjoyed that. But the cooperation with our Region 3 partners is noted. That is the genuine desire to give as many kids in this region as many academic choices and opportunities as possible, I think is a wonderful model. And one, as I continue to say, is something for us to keep in mind in the future as we, I think, look at extending that model in other directions, perhaps. I want to point out the flag. Has been in this room for a bit now, but thank you to Patty for her efforts in getting that done, and Jenny for their joint efforts in getting it here, getting it set up, getting it so it's not sits right and set up right. We're pleased to, very pleased to display Old Glory here at our board offices. A couple of weeks ago, we had five high school students, 2 seniors, 3 sophomores, attend an event at Walt Disney World down in Orlando. This was related to the work with cheerleading, the Cheer Magic program. You know, I just want to comment on this because these students were selected out of many in the state to be qualified to be able to do this. We talked to senior representatives. They already talked a little bit about fundraising and doing things that they were going to need to do for their senior trip. And believe me, I know that this group of students and their families also work very hard to fundraise for this trip and this opportunity to not only be in Florida in December, which is not a bad idea, but you know, to expand their horizons, to share with other students of like interests, and to really grow from this and represent our school and community. This was an event that was purely funded through their fundraising efforts, and I think the donations and probably from their parents as well. I want to note that, and Danielle Cook for the good work that they did with this. Alice training has been referenced a few times this evening. Just want to thank the safety committee, specifically Greg Fillion, for his work with not only this training but our entire safety planning process. You know, unfortunately, we every so often, way too often, we again learn of an event at a school, at a mall, wherever, even at churches, What we noticed with the school, we noticed with the last event that where an armed intruder came in, that the school had done a great job with making sure their doors were secure, the rooms are secure. There was no loss of life within those rooms, in part because of the planning and efforts that were taken by the school, by the students, by the teachers. And certainly we pay attention to this and the patterns, models some of the things that we're doing in terms of making sure that our first response is to get into a secure place and to make sure that we follow protocols, we're able to communicate, and again, that we're able to respond in the event that something like this would happen here. We dodged bullets a little bit last week with the weather. We hope to continue to do so, right? I hope that, again, it's always a tricky call. I was this close to calling at least for a 2-hour delay the night before. I really hate calling people or having people get the call at 5, 6 in the morning saying, oh, by the way, we're not starting till 10 today. I won't say that'll never happen. It does happen. Sometimes things change when we have to, but I will continue to try to make those calls the night before whenever possible. And, with weatherman willing, we'll make more right calls and wrong calls there, but whatever calls we make will err on the side of caution and security and safety. The school grants that we talked about that the board gave me authority to submit last meeting are being submitted. So far I've submitted the cost sharing grant for the Littleton Academy windows, which will be a combination of replacing some of those windows at a minimum, using material to reinforce the windows that are there to improve the safety of our students and the security of the building. Also to finish off our work, we've spent a fair amount of resources the last few years on security cameras, but one of these grants will finish that work, upgrade our radios that we use for communication. Also to replace the stairs, egress, specifically the stairs of egress at Lakeway Elementary out of the portables, as well as the wooden bridge that bridges the parking lot over to the Lakeway campus. And again, also buying being able to purchase some of the reinforcing materials for the doors at Lakeway, which haven't already received that treatment. There's several other areas we talked about last time that I'm continuing to work on and getting some guidance from the state, including the parking lot at the high school, middle school, high school location, not the lot itself, but the retaining wall, and a couple of other items that we'll be working on as well. Emergency Operations Plan meeting, initial meeting with June Garneau is this Thursday. We'll be reviewing the process and the goals of the project and discussing responsibilities of both her company, mapping and planning solutions, and the team. And so in short, looking at making sure that her work takes what we've done and gives us the intended outcome, which is to finish that particular plan. And finally, Jerry, talk about universal design for learning, right? I talk about this often, but I think it's one of the key things that we're doing here in terms of our school improvement, in terms of working with all populations of students. I did spend some time with 3 third grade teachers in Lakeway last week, and I've observed their classes a bit and watched some of the things that they're doing with universal design principles being used in the classroom, and that's flexible groupings and multiple opportunities for students to learn using different approaches. And I was pleased to spend some time with them, learn about, and listen to some of the things that they observed when they went to the staff development earlier this year in Indiana, and when they visited classrooms. And it's nice to see that taking hold in our classrooms, and we'll continue to work with that with our teachers and continue to work with that model because it is a great model that gives students academic learning access to all learning, regardless of how they learn, and just as important, gives them multiple ways to express how they've learned. And that's critical for us as well. And I think that's it.
I'd entertain a motion to go into non-public session, please.
I'll make a motion to enter into non-public session under paragraph 2, section 3 of the RSA 91A:3 of the Right to Know law for, number 2, the hiring of any person as a public employee, and number 3, matters that would adversely affect the reputation of any person other than a member of the board, taking with us the superintendent, the business manager, Patty.
Yeah,
That's it?
I think so.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Roll call vote?
Greg Cook.
Kim Woodson?
Millie Nelson?
Jim Enning?
Ann Wigan.